Prodigal. Adjective. 1. Recklessly extravagant. 2. Having spent everything. The parable. Luke 15, 1-3, 11-32. Based on the New International Version, with some verses translated by the author. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear him. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a far country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired men have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son, make me like one of your hired men.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick! Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again, he was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The elder brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' 1. The people around Jesus. All gathering around to hear him. 2 kinds of people. Most readings of this parable have concentrated on the flight and return of the younger brother, the prodigal son. That misses the real message of the story, however, because there are 2 brothers, each of whom represents a different way to be alienated from God and a different way to seek acceptance into the kingdom of heaven. It is crucial to notice the historical setting that the author provides for Jesus' teaching. In the first 2 verses of the chapter, Luke recounts that there were 2 groups of people who had come to listen to Jesus. First there were the tax collectors and sinners. These men and women correspond to the younger brother. They observed neither the moral laws of the Bible nor the rules for ceremonial purity followed by religious Jews. They engaged in wild living. Like the younger brother, they left home by leaving the traditional morality of their families and of respectable society. The second group of listeners was the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who were represented by the elder brother. They held to the traditional morality of their upbringing. They studied and obeyed the scripture. They worshipped faithfully and prayed constantly. But great economy Luke shows how different each group's response was to Jesus. The progressive tense of the Greek verb translated "were gathering" conveys that the attraction of younger brothers to Jesus was an ongoing pattern in his ministry. They continually flocked to him. This phenomenon puzzled and angered the moral and the religious. Luke summarizes their complaint. "This man welcomes sinners and even eats with them." To sit down and eat with someone in the ancient Near East was a token of acceptance. "How dare Jesus reach out to sinners like that," they were saying. "These people never come to our services. Why would they be drawn to Jesus' teaching? He couldn't be declaring the truth to them, as we do. He must be just telling them what they want to hear." So to whom is Jesus' teaching in this parable directed? It is to the second group, the Scribes and Pharisees. It is in response to their attitude that Jesus begins to tell the parable. The parable of the 2 sons takes an extended look at the soul of the elder brother and climaxes with a powerful plea for him to change his heart. Throughout the centuries, when this text is taught in church or religious education programs, the almost exclusive focus has been on how the father freely receives his penitent younger son. The first time I heard the parable, I imagined Jesus' original listeners' eyes welling with tears as they heard how God will always love and welcome them, no matter what they've done. We sentimentalize this parable if we do that. The targets of this story are not wayward sinners, but religious people who do everything the Bible requires. Jesus is pleading, not so much with immoral outsiders, as with moral insiders. He wants to show them their blindness, narrowness, and self-righteousness, and how these things are destroying both their own souls and the lives of the people around them. It is a mistake, then, to think that Jesus tells this story primarily to assure younger brothers of his unconditional love. No, the original listeners were not melted into tears by this story, but rather they were thunderstruck, offended, and infuriated. Jesus' purpose is not to warm our hearts, but to shatter our categories. Through this parable Jesus challenges what nearly everyone has ever thought about God, sin, and salvation. His story reveals the destructive self-centeredness of the younger brother, but it also condemns the elder brother's moralistic life in the strongest terms. Jesus is saying that both the irreligious and the religious are spiritually lost, both life paths are dead ends, and that every thought the human race has had about how to connect to God has been wrong.